I'm Max Sterling, welcome to LARPgasm. Today we're going to make something called digger bread, which is fantastic for any post-apocalyptic LARPs that you may play. It's also probably good for camping, or anything else, that you may find a use for it. But basically, digger bread, unless you were a hippie towards the end of the 60s and you happen to live in California, you probably have no idea what the hell digger bread is. And that's fine. You don't need to know what it is. You just need to understand how we're going to make it here. First thing you want to do is get yourself a can. Now, traditional digger bread back in the 60s was made in coffee cans, and you can totally use a big metal coffee can if you want to, but I would suggest get yourself a can of something like this, where you have a non-BPA lining and preferably something that's organic, but this non-BPA lining is the most important part. So you can use a variety of cans to make this, but you don't want, whenever you are heating this can up, to start leaching all kinds of chemicals and shit into your food. And basically, you can use whatever size can you want. I have a sort of a regular can here. I have a little bit of a fatter can. Like I said, you can use a coffee can or whatever. Now, there is an actual recipe for digger bread, and I can share that with you if you'd like. Also, I think that this would lend itself very well to something like a soda bread, where there's very limited ingredients. In fact, I would prefer to do this as a soda bread, where you just have something like flour, baking soda, and water, and call it a day, because that way, from a post-apocalyptic standpoint, you have the fewest amount of ingredients basically to make your bread, and it's still going to taste good. Maybe throw a little salt in there. Now, another take on this might be to use something sweet. You could certainly use some sort of sweet bread to do this, or really anything you want to put in this can. What I'm going to use is just some French bread. Real easy to do. This way we don't have to make bread, we don't have to roll anything. You can use frozen bread, you can make your own bread dough, but dealing with the yeast is a pain in the ass. That's why I say the soda bread is a good idea. Also, something like this is a good idea. So basically, super simple. All we're gonna do is just go ahead and open this thing up here. Get all that bread out. And then we're just going to take, since we have two cans, we're going to rip it in half. We're going to take this one, we're going to put it inside that can. We're going to take this one, put it inside that can. And that's pretty much it. Now, these instructions on here say to cook it at 350 in your oven for about 25 minutes. So we're going to throw this in there for 25 minutes. If you want, you can grease this. That's up to you. This dough looks kind of greasy already to me, so I might put a little bit of butter in there or something. But if you wanted to grease the inside or spray it, you can do that. But that's pretty much all that you need to do. So we're going to take these and throw them in the oven, and when they're done, you're going to have bread in a can, which is essentially what digger bread is. It's just a loaf of bread in a can. Now, if you make the big coffee can, then you're obviously going to have a huge loaf that you can share with people. If you're doing a small one, this is more of a personal size, which is why I like showing you sort of my take on this, because what you could do is you make these small personal loaves, and then you can barter these for stuff. You can trade these for other items, at your LARP or at festival or whatever you're going to. And, it's just a pretty cool, simple thing to make. You could totally make this on a fire. You can make this on a grill, whatever you want. You just need to get up to like your 350 degrees for the amount of time that it asks for. If you're making like a soda bread or something, it might even be easier than that. If you're making something that you can cook at a low temperature, you might even be able to cook it on like your top of your engine, or sit it down by the manifold and cook it on there. So really, I would say experiment around with it. It's cheap enough to make, easy enough to do. So give your take on it. This is my take on it. Let's go ahead and throw these in the oven and see how they turn out. 25 to 30 minutes. Boom. Just look at these tasty morsels. Who would have thought? some simple bread dough, and a can would make something so awesome. Let's go ahead and dump these out. We don't worry about that little fucker, we'll eat this big one. So I mean, you can see how it has the rings from the can, and it's just like this awesome little loaf of bread. Go ahead and try it here. Tastes pretty good. So if this is something that you'd be interested in making, I would suggest go ahead and get yourself a can, get yourself the bread, put it in there, and make yourself some. Now the whole concept of this was to give this stuff away for free. So if you're that type of person at your LARP or fair or whatever that you're going to, festival, then go ahead and make a whole bunch of these and give them away. It's very cheap to do. If you check the description, I'm going to include maybe 1 or 2 recipes for some much simpler bread that's very cheap to make. So you could try doing this with like a soda bread or something. However, like yeast, working with yeast sucks. Especially if you're in shitty conditions. So I would not suggest doing that unless you are really good at making bread in the first place. This sort of like instant, like French bread stuff, fantastic. The only problem is it's a little bit more costly. But yeah, this is digger bread, Maxx style, and I hope this is something that you can implement at your LARP, and hopefully it goes a long way. Now, as far as the cans, you might be able to use something like a beer can or something if you cut the top off. These cans I'm using are all pull top cans. That way this isn't really sharp in here, so when you have goobers that are trying to like eat this bread out of here, they're not cutting themselves all up. You may want to take a second and hammer this down, or you may even want to use the same cans over and over. If you're cooking them in an oven or on a grill or something where they're not going to get screwed up, that would probably work. If you're going to set this in a fire or something weird with it, that's up to you. As far as the dough, like I said, you can make it something sweet, you can make it savory. If you make the dough yourself, you can add whatever you want to into it, spices, salt, whatever you want to do. This bread itself was pretty good. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. Please make sure that you like this video. Subscribe to my channel. A lot of you folks watch my channel, but you don't subscribe, so please click that little subscribe button. If you want notified when my new videos come out, click the bell, follow me on Twitter, and most importantly, let all your friends know that this channel exists. So, until next time, adventure on. Fuck your bread. Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true. Just do it! Some people dream of success. Well, you're going to wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, but you're not going to stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Just do it! Just do it! Yes, you can. Just do it. If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up. Click subscribe.